Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Vole, and welcome back to a brand new video here on the Arsenal of Bricks, where we're going to be showing you this fully automatic Lego submachine gun. Enjoy. And here is the Lego submachine gun in question. And before we get on to any of the testing, allow me to give you a quick overview of this Lego weapon, as well as quickly showing you how to load. So, this is a fully automatic Lego submachine gun. It shoots 4 medium rubber bands, and it is, whilst it's not my first fully automatic Lego gun, it certainly is the first to encompass a proper blowback mechanism. A blowback mechanism where when you pull the trigger, the bolt is released like so. So, just to show you how to quickly load it, I've got 4 rubber bands over here, and loading it is simple. What you do is you take a rubber band, preferably one that looks like this, and I'd recommend only loading 4, because you've always got to be careful on these things. I've had this gun blow up because I've loaded it too many times. So what you want to do is hook your rubber band around this spindle. You will see this bit. You want to spin it all the way around like so, then release the trigger. Then once you've hooked the rubber band on to the one side, hook it on to the other side. Then of course you want to repeat the process again and again, making sure that the rubber band is out of the way of the spindle mechanism before you load in the next round. Even though I say the maximum capacity of this gun is 4 rounds, you could probably get away with loading 5 depending on what type of rubber bands you're using, but we won't overdo it too much. And there you go. This Lego gun is now fully loaded. If you want, you can utilise this fake magazine, which means after you've loaded all 4 rounds, you can pop it in like so. Just quickly show you how it shoots. Boom. Then if you want to utilise this false magazine system, you don't have to, it's purely cosmetic. All you need to do is push on this magazine release and pull the magazine out of the weapon like so. So now I've given you a brief overview of how this gun works, it's time to do the range test. So of course here we are with the range test, and what we're going to do is we're going to shoot these 4 rubber band projectiles down that range, and afterwards we're going to go up and we're going to see how far this gun is able to shoot. So, load the gun up. And because this gun is fully automatic, we're going to do all 4 tests at once. Well, 4th and final test, because that didn't shoot. Okay, and here we are with the range test, and we're going to go down there and see how far the rounds have been able to shoot. Here we are with the results of the range test, and whilst this gun may not be perfect at all times, the range is certainly nothing to complain about. Firstly, we're going to go to the one that didn't shoot so far, which clocked in at around 3.5 meters, which is pretty good for a rubber band Lego gun. Further up, we've got this one, which did shoot a little further but didn't shoot too far. This one clocked in at around 4 meters. The other green one that I did miss, that came in around 3.7. And of course finally we're going to go on to the rubber band that shot the furthest, which was this red one, which clocked in at quite an impressive 5.5 meters, which is pretty good for a Lego rubber band gun. I say the range isn't too high, although it's not too shabby for a rubber band gun, however it is somewhat consistent. Obviously you can tell that the stronger the rubber band is, of course, the further it's going to shoot. Not only is the range good, but this gun also has a plethora of awesome new things, including a fully functional blowback mechanism. However, how useful is that if the gun's not accurate at all? We'll be finding out if this gun is accurate in the accuracy test. But before we do that, allow me to talk you through the details of this LEGO submachine gun. This is a fully automatic LEGO submachine gun. It takes 4 rubber bands like these, and it even uses a fake magazine, as seen on some of our previous builds. This submachine gun is constructed of many different parts. First off, we have this pistol grip, which is part of the lower receiver of the gun with the mag well, which also has a mag release and takes in this false magazine, as seen on some of our previous builds. Another part of this weapon is of course the trigger mechanism, and the final piece, apart from the shell of the weapon, would be the blowback mechanism that fires the rubber bands. Just quickly talk about our pistol grip, as we have covered this in our Glock video. It is constructed a very similar way as the Glock video, using these Technic bricks to connect to 2 identical Technic rods stuck together, and of course it's connected to this kind of smoothened out inverted slope and sloped grip like so. It creates this nice angle that makes it just really nice to hold. Attached to it is a very similar design of trigger guard as well to our previous Glock. Only this time the trigger guard is a lot more sturdier. It houses the trigger quite well, and the trigger is able to move within the confines of the grip. Next, we're going to talk about the mag well. The mag well is very similar to the mag well on our fully automatic submachine pistol and our hunting rifle, as in it uses a very similar magazine notch design and a mag release. The mag release has this blue rubber band that's attached into the inside of the gun, and putting the magazine in is easy as such. Whilst we're on the subject of triggers, the actual trigger is really simple. All it is this simple L-piece, which is attached to the weapon using this LEGO Technic axle. The rubber band that provides tension to this, so that the trigger can block the blowback bolt from moving, is attached to this LEGO Technic pin. And of course, when you pull the trigger, the blowback mechanism, which is usually restricted by the trigger, is able to move freely. And whilst we're on the subject of tension, we're going to go quickly onto the mag well of the gun, which is very similar to the ones we have used in our previous builds. The magazine release is constructed in quite a similar way, where it's just a singular piece that is attached to that one LEGO Technic pin. Of course, in order to fit the magazine in, it needs a little notch there, and therefore, when the magazine is inserted into the gun, it's kept there until the user pushes the magazine release and removes the mag from the mag well, like so. This horizontal foregrip here is designed for ultimate comfortability, and of course, due to the fact that this is just a slight bit lower, you can add any attachments to this part of the lower receiver, including a foregrip. And of course, the top of the weapon, as per usual, is smoothened out with these LEGO smooth base plates. To make sure that the rubber bands keep in the area that I wish them to stay in, I have put these one base plate higher than these base plates. This gun also has quite a few extra aesthetical extras, including on the bolt, which we'll talk about in a second. There's this little Technic piece that will stick out, kind of like a bolt in a real firearm. There's also a shell ejection port, although this is purely cosmetic. Additionally, there's this pin, which is quite practical for when you're trying to load rounds into this gun, and allows the user to spin this part from the outside, which makes it easier to use. For added effectiveness and realism, the Lego rubber bands are hooked onto the end of this false barrel, which is attached to this Lego Technic cross-section connector. All you would need to do is push this through there like so, and he's ready for you to use. Just like that. Because this gun has absolutely no sights on it, there is a very simple tip that I'm going to give you to allow you to aim down the weapon for added accuracy. All you would need to do is use the centerpiece here as a guide as to where you should be aiming the weapon. Then use these two higher walls of the weapon to help place your aim. Like so. Just to demonstrate, we've got the gun here and I am aiming towards the yellow target. Nothing special here, just showing you how this sight works, or lack of, shall we say. Now we're going to fire. Boom. Works just like an iron sight. And of course, now that we've got the regular basics that I usually put on the Lego guns out of the way, let's talk about the real magic of this Lego weapon, the blowback mechanism. Of course, this is the mechanism of the Lego gun. As you can see, there is a bolt which is blocked by this trigger here, and of course there is also a spindle mechanism which allows the rubber bands to be fired. As we have mentioned, the job of this trigger piece is to keep the bolt in place. But that's not the only thing restricting the bolt. As you can see, there is this Lego brick with a full Technic rod attached to it. In order to keep this Technic rod in place, what we would do is between here and here, what we would do is we would slot this Technic part in the center of the bolt. Then what we would do is, of course, attach the Lego bricks in place. And as you may notice, the bolt will not come up or down. It will quite literally stay in position. This is the bolt on its own of the Lego gun. And of course, this is a fairly simple construction. And the bolt mainly consists of a section here to house the trigger piece, which would block the bolt from going forward or back. Then here we have a little slot here, which the one Lego piece that I've talked about in the earlier clip would be slotted into to prevent this Technic bolt from going up or down. Then we also have on the here this bit. This bit is purely for decoration, and this pops out of a shell ejection port, which is completely and utterly cosmetic. And finally, this is the part which would attach to the spindle of the Lego gun. This is the actual triggers of the weapon. The trigger is designed to keep the bolt in place, and it is only a simple L-shaped Lego piece which is connected to this Lego Technic axle. Certain Lego Technic pieces are put in place to keep it in its exact position, and there is a rubber band which provides tension to this trigger, keeping it forward and allowing it to block the Lego weapon whilst it's in idle position, thus not causing any misfires. The rubber band is attached to this Lego Technic pin, keeping it well out of the way of the bolt. The spindle system is also a fairly simple addition to the weapon. The spindle itself is made of two of these 3-wide Lego Technic rods, which are attached to the cross-section beam, which is attached to this Lego Technic rod. This Lego Technic rod, of course, is used to help the user load the weapon from using both this part on the outside and this on the inside. This is the bit that actually controls the spindle, kind of like a trigger mech, but this is attached to the bolt. It consists of this and this part, And what would happen is when the bolt moves forward, this will move forward, allowing the spindle to go round. Then, of course, it will do this, and the spindle will be removed back to this position. Reconfiguring the weapon is really simple. All you need to do is take this bolt and this weapon, attach this part of the bolt onto the spindle, like so. Then what you want to do is take this it's kind of like a guide rod, but not really. It's just something to hold the bolt in place. Take this part and, of course, slot it in like so, and make sure the trigger is put in place properly, and what you'll find is the bolt works effectively. Like so, and of course, when the trigger is released, the bolt will no longer move. Of course, there are so many great features for this LEGO fully automatic submachine gun. However, will it all amount to jack shit? Well, it's time to find out in the accuracy test. Can this gun hit these 4 targets? It's time to find out. So today, because this gun is a fully automatic weapon, we're going to be doing things slightly differently. So the first 4 tests are going to be the standard accurate and powerful 1 shot each. Then afterwards we're going to try a sweeping accuracy test to see how many rounds we can sweep off in one go. So, starting with the single shot tests. So, here we are with test number 1. Pass. Test number 2. Pass. Test number 3. Pass. And the 4th and final test. Pass. All 4 pass. Okay, so here we are with the sweeping test, and again I have loaded in a 5th round. Two out of 4 pass. While the accuracy test may show clear precision from this LEGO gun, the opposite may be true. Soon it will be time to go down to the precision test. However, before we do that, allow me to talk you through my own personal opinion of this LEGO gun. So of course, starting off with the good things, it is a nice fully automatic submachine gun, which works really well and is quite effective. The fully automatic is not too fast, and it is controllable, and it also has a nice realistic blowback bolt, which is situated here on the weapon. The weapon in and of itself is aesthetically pleasing for the most part, with a proper pistol grip, of course, just as usual, a well-made trigger guard, and a realistic barrel. It also has a fake magazine, which I find really nice, even though the feature isn't that much important. It just makes things feel a little bit more realistic and a little bit more authentic. Another thing I like about the gun is this little feature here. It means that I can still load the weapon, unlike with my my machine pistol, where it was slightly awkward to load it because you'd have to turn the gears each time. Here, it's slightly simpler. You get this little bit here, this little hook, which hooks onto the spindle, and you can turn it around as you load on the rubber bands. As we've suggested before, the range is pretty good and is somewhat consistent. The accuracy is great, but it's not the ideal gun for sweeping because it didn't hit all the targets. That being said, you don't really vouch for accuracy when you're sweeping with a full auto. You're vouching for quick, fast, no bullshit action. Another great thing, of course, is it's all polished up on the top, and of course, nothing feels awkward on this weapon. This bit, this front grip, is nice and comfortable, the back grip's nice and comfortable, everything just works together. And I think this submachine gun is a very solid piece. However, enough about the good. We're going to start talking about some other bad things about this Lego gun. And to start off with, sometimes this gun jams quite a lot. And it's really annoying when it does it, because you're like, you're pulling the trigger on the gun, the bolt's not moving, and you're wondering if you've done anything wrong. It turns out the gun does have funny phases where it does jam. There are ways to fix it, but the jams do seem to be prominent. My recommendation is to make sure nothing's too tight, otherwise the bolt will not be able to move in the way it needs to in order for it to fire. Another additional suggestion is, if you do have this kind of blowback mechanism, to go and buy some new rubber bands, because unless you're using fresh rubber bands, this thing is going to jam quite a bit, which is why I didn't mention reliability as one of its top traits. Another problem with this weapon, which some people have pointed out, is it doesn't have a shoulder stock. Sure, you can attach one, but there's no proper shoulder stock, and usually when you add Technic connects to these parts, it can be rather flimsy. The option is still there for people that want to use it, and personally I do prefer to have a weapon without its shoulder stock, but some people really like the idea of a shoulder stock in it. It's something I missed out on putting in for the sake of making the gun well made, and of course a proper mechanism could actually fit into the weapon, so the stock was kind of pushed aside. Another problem is the fact that the weapon can shoot a little bit too fast. Yes, it's controllable, but you really need to squeeze on that trigger in order to get the controllability that you want. And that's not the best thing in the world. And I think the final problem is that the trigger guard still has the same problem as my Lego Glock, albeit it's a lot better, and it just doesn't fall off unless you're doing something really sloppy, but it still creaks apart, which is not great, especially when you're trying to load a gun. I can't mention the amount of times where I've tried to load it and fired it, so I suggest you keep this false magazine in the weapon whilst you are loading, otherwise you're going to make a lot of negligent discharges if you're not careful, especially if you're pressing the trigger guard or against your trouser leg, which is what I typically do to make it nice and easy for me. Sometimes I press it against my chest, sometimes I hold it on my leg, so you do need care and attention if you were to create something along the lines of this. So in general, I think this gun is a really good addition to the LEGO arsenal, but it does have quite a few issues. So this is probably more of a prototype of a submachine gun, which will probably be improved into a much better product with a lot more practice. It's really good, but there are some things I could do to this weapon that would make it exponentially better. So with that in mind, it's now time to do the precision test. So, as you know, the accuracy test is merely just a test of me being able to aim down the weapon and shoot each individual target, with maybe a few different exceptions. However, this precision test, we can find out if it's precise or if it was just my luck. So, let's go, and for this test, because it's a fully automatic SMG, we'll be firing one rubber band at a time. Let's get this started. So, here we are with test number 1. Pass. Here we are with test number 2. Pass. And here we are with our third and final test. Pass. All 3 pass. Thank you guys for watching this video. Now if you like the video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, click subscribe. And I'm not going to tell you what's next because I have no idea if I'm going to post a full, accurate and powerful video, or if it's going to be too late and I'm going to end up having to do another shooting montage. So all there's left to say is I'll see you in the next vid. Keep on building. So buggy today. This gun is really buggy.